Are you ready for rapid fire?
Oh, baby. I have been born ready for rapid fire. I didn't even know we were getting into it this early.
Did I catch you off guard? Well, it's already 6:45. I mean, we've been at this for a while.
I know. I just looked up myself and I was like, have we really been talking that long?
We have. We've been going. All right. So let's jump into here. Here is ESPN's Greg McElroy on his Always College Football show, and he is talking about Notre Dame. I got to see if I can find the right cut to cue up here as I find the Greg McElroy cuts. Here it is.
Dame to me yesterday, having called the game and seeing them in person, I still have some questions about overall team speed, and that's okay. Because I think they acknowledge that. I think they recognize that. But this team is extremely well coached. Extremely well coached. Marcus Freeman is really, I don't want to say he's growing up before our eyes, but he is doing the little things as a head coach that feel wise beyond his years. Calling timeouts at the end of the half so that they can potentially steal some points, which was a huge momentum play in the game. Calling timeouts before the half, give the ball back to Sam Hartman. They hit a big play right down the right sideline, and the next thing you know, next play, touchdown. I mean, that's Marcus Freeman just gave their offense an extra 7 points. And that was him, to be aggressive and to keep the pedal down and to understand and trust his guys enough to do it.
All right, so there's Greg McElroy. Of course, he was the analyst for ESPN, along with Sean McDonough doing the play-by-play Saturday for the Notre Dame North Carolina State game. You're chuckling. He's not sure about Notre Dame's team speed. There are some fans who actually feel the same. Scale of 1 to 10. How big a concern is Notre Dame's team speed to you, Jess?
So 10 being like, wow, I'm overly concerned.
I'm very concerned. Yeah,
I need to fix this right now. I give it. I think I'd land somewhere between a 3 and a 4. I don't necessarily. Well, I'm going to stick with a 3 because I don't think that it's overall very this is there's so many layers to this question. Are they up there with
you're making this a very layered question?
No, but there is layers to it because are they on the same playing field as Alabama in terms of team speed? No. Are they in terms of Ohio State? Are they on the same playing field in terms of team speed? No. And I think that was evident when Tobias Merriweather got caught on that pass route over the middle. That is the play that sticks out, and that's the play where I agree with what Greg McElroy is saying, but I think Jared Parker realizes that, and he constructs offensive plays that don't compromise their team speed. Like, he finds a way to integrate the speed that they have and the things that they're good at, and those are successful play calls, right? But I also think the flip side of that is why you're seeing so many freshmen on offense play, because they do have that speed. And I think that is a big reason why Marcus Freeman is getting these guys playing time, is because he knows that these freshmen with their talent and speed unlock another dimension of this offense. And so I just don't think that they're quite there yet. And I think they're kind of working it. They're working it throughout the season of getting these guys comfortable with the offense. And then you'll see that team speed kind of elevate. So do you see why there was layers to that answer?
I see why there's layers, because it's not like there, and McElroy wasn't saying that there's no speed on this team. He's saying team speed. And you're talking about, you've got running backs.
They've got speed on the team.
You've got wide receivers. You've got tight ends. They're obvious, and then you go to the defensive side. You've got the secondary. You've got the linebackers. There are different spots where there's speed. As Holden Staes says, Audric Estime registered over 20 miles an hour on his hot dog-fueled touchdown run. He hit almost 21 miles an hour on the 80-yard run. So it's not like there isn't any speed, and that's not what McElroy was saying. And that's why, without being as complex as the mathematician/engineer that you are, I agree with what you're saying, and I put it probably in that 3 to 4 range, because against 90% of the teams Notre Dame is going to see this season, that team speed isn't going to be a big factor. I think the two biggest ones that you've got to point to are going to be Ohio State and USC. USC, we saw it last year, and we've seen it year after year after year with what they do at the wide receiver positions. There's always speed there. But that said, as I've said before, I think that not just from a speed standpoint, but from a technical standpoint as well, this Notre Dame secondary, and again, a lot of them young guys, as you just pointed out, that's why you're seeing some of these young guys like Jeremiah Love, Jaden Greathouse. You flip it like Christian Gray got to play a little bit more last week. So a lot of these different guys, that's where the speed is, because that's where the recruiting has picked up over the last couple of years. That's why
that's the Marcus Freeman effect.
And that's why the roster is getting deeper with those kind of guys. And so for right now, it's not perfect, but it's definitely getting better. It is, again, as McElroy, he's saying it's not a big issue. Is it going to be an issue in a couple of the bigger games this year? Because Notre Dame will have an advantage there in a lot of different spots, but is it going to show up against an Ohio State who's going to have arguably the best receivers that anyone's going to see?
Yeah, I just think against Ohio State, you can expect to win by going speed on speed, right? Like, Ohio State's faster than you. You got to do things to bridge that gap, be stronger than them, be more physical than, not commit as many penalties. Like, speed is just one aspect of the game. Like, we talk about football players having a 5 tool, it's similar in football. That's just one tool within the toolbox. And a lot of people are giving me flack about Tobias Merriweather. Listen, he was at full speed when he got caught. It's not like he turned and got caught there. He was upfield at full speed and got caught,
And you're not the first one to mention it. It's come up
playing on the same field. Okay.
Yes,
so I don't want
to come up multiple times this week. He got caught by a linebacker from behind. And I've seen plenty of fans say, a guy like Tobias can't get caught by a linebacker from behind. That's a true statement. It's a true statement. So it's not knocking him to say it. It's just pointing him out, or it's fact. It happened. So I don't know what else you can do about it. Like, it's something that's got to continue to get better. And I'm sure that it will.
Right.
Just the way it is. What do you think about what McElroy said about Freeman's game management and coaching, about the way he, used the timeouts and stuff like that?
I think that's been the biggest improvement of Marcus Freeman this season. Him as a coach, him as a game manager. And listen, like, I don't want to just seem like I'm just saying this, but like in the moment, I was like, damn, these are just so smart timeouts by Marcus Freeman, because we saw what Sam Hartman has done in the 2-minute drill before. He just needs a little bit of clock, right? Like, and that's the thing. And I was like, man, there are NFL coaches who still can't figure this out. Yes. And Marcus Freeman is in year 2, and he already knows, okay, you want to get down here? We'll take our timeouts. We'll give our 60-year quarterback the ball back in the 2-minute drill. And even if you sneak a field goal in there, that's a win, let alone a touchdown right before the half. That is such a dagger in the momentum of NC State or any opponent that you play.
Look, man, Andy Reid has won 2 Super Bowls and he's been to 2 more, and he still has a hard time figuring all this stuff out at the end of halves. Mike McCarthy, I mean, do we want to go down that road and start talking about it? There, like you said, Robert Saleh, if there are plenty of NFL head coaches who struggle with this. And the fact that Marcus Freeman is in year 2 as a head coach and hasn't, has barely gone through a full season as a head coach and hasn't gone through 2 full seasons, and he's as on point with it as he is. Vince and I were sitting here last week kind of having fun about it, but he was, arguing with himself and through the press box with Marcus Freeman about, are you going to call timeouts or not? Like at the end of the first half against Tennessee State. And, I'm like, well, you got to make sure this is going to happen and this. And then lo and behold, Marcus Freeman uses a couple of timeouts, leaves him 53 seconds. All he needed was 38. He left 15 seconds to spare.
We'll give you 15 back. We didn't need all of it.
He is. And like, if you look back at all 3 of the end of the first halves, he has done a great job managing that clock. And as we were talking about the other day with the right, the Tennessee State stuff, the way he used the timeouts, that happened right after Antonio Carter got ejected for targeting. So you've got that going on. Last week, you had the Riley Mills hands to the face stuff, and he's out there arguing with the official. And in the midst of all that, he still makes the proper calls with the timeout. So I completely agree. It's pretty amazing that he has shown the maturity as a head coach in such a short amount of time with that kind of thing specifically that, as you said, can take some NFL head coaches a whole career and they don't even figure it out. All right, so some more Greg McElroy. And this, by the way, I can't remember if I said, this is on his, I want to give credit for the show. It's his Always College Football show, his podcast, Always College Football. So he talked a little Holden Staes as well. He came away from that Notre Dame, North Carolina State game with some positive impressions of Holden Staes.
And then I think, too, the pass catchers. We kind of mentioned him the last couple of weeks. Holden Staes is going to be a problem. He ended up having a big day yesterday, had a good catch and run. In the absence of, obviously, a super elite tight end from a year ago, they're probably not going to be able to replace him as a well-rounded player, but you can replace his receiving ability with Holden Staes. You can replace his end-of-the-line willingness with Mitchell Evans. And then when Raridan gets back in a couple weeks at some point, now you have the guy that's 6'7" and can fly.
All right, so there's Greg McElroy on Holden Staes. Here's my question to you. Do you buy or sell the emergence of Staes as a true X factor for the Irish offense going forward?
I really do. And, first of all, I got to give compliments to Greg McElroy. I think he has an immense knowledge of, everything that he talks about, right? Like he knows about Eli Raridan, who hasn't even seen the field in a long time, right? So it's just like, it's nice and refreshing to hear someone that just has all the facts with them, right?
Just make sure he knows that Jaden Thomas is not a tight end, and I think everyone will be fine.
Right.
Part, right.
I picked, I think it was before the season started. It was a show Vince and I did. I picked Staes to be the guy at tight end. I think that, and just because of what you're bringing up, he's an excellent pass catcher. I didn't think Mitchell Evans was as good of a pass catcher, but he was a better blocker. And that just goes along with what McElroy was saying. I think the combination of them, and when you get into 12 personnel, you have one guy who's, can block, and then you have the other guy who's the pass catcher. And I think Staes is the X factor because you account for everyone else that's shown on film, right? You see Greathouse, you see Tobias with the big frame, you see Tyree with the speed, you see Jaden Thomas with another, a big bodied wide receiver who still moves well. I think why Holden Staes is an X factor is because he is such a great pass catcher. He's got good speed. And it's just another big body that you have to account for. Like, what safety wants to go one-on-one with Holden Staes up a seam? Who wants to tackle Holden Staes in the open field, right? And so I just think it's another great target for Sam Hartman. And when all else fails, there's Holden Staes, right? Like, I could just dump it down to him. So I do really see him as an X factor because I think he goes overlooked and he provides relief to some of these other wide receivers.
Look, he's been wide open a couple of times, and you end up wide open as a tight end because there's so many, like the way that Sam Hartman has spread the ball around to both the receivers and the running backs. I know we talk about it a lot, but it's just now you add this to that, you can attack all three levels, and there's just no way. If you decide to double one guy, you're going to get burned. And when you have a guy that's already shown what Holden Staes can do, I think that it is. I think that it is going to take it. It's really going to help take this offense to the next level. That doesn't mean that he's going to be like the alpha target like Michael Mayer, but I just think that it helps bring so much diversity to the offense. And then, like Greg McElroy talked about, if and when you get Eli Raridan back, that's just another element that you're going to throw in there. But I think that Staes can be a big X factor for these guys, especially when you are going up against Ohio State next week.
Listen, the last thing Sam Hartman needs is another good catcher of the ball, because that's just another person that has to be defended, right? Like if I'm an opposing defense, it's like, pick your battle, right? Like Greathouse can catch the ball. Tobias can catch the ball. Daniels can catch Jaden Daniels can catch the ball. It's just like go down the list. They have so many targets. And then when you add someone with the makeup of Staes, it's just another guy that you have to worry about and game plan around.
I do agree with what you're saying about Greg McElroy. I think that like him as a broadcaster, I think he's
great.
I think he's grown a lot in the last couple of years, and starting to see it now that he's kind of moved up a level in terms of the booth that he's in with Sean. I always enjoy McDonough. I've always liked McDonough, but like I feel like he's been around for a long time now, and he's from Boston, that East Coast, and he's just got enough of that snarkiness in him. Like if you were paying attention last week, you heard him, with like a few, kind of sarcasm, snark bombs in there. I always enjoy that as well when McDonough's doing a game. So Jeff says, speaking of Marcus Freeman growing up as a coach, this upcoming game was a nightmare type of game for this team last year. Have they put that behind them now? What do you think about that?
I think we'll see. I think that this is the true, let's break it down here. Navy on the road in Ireland, right? Like hard to flop in that game, right? Like it's just a national stage. It's the first game of the year. You've had all summer to prepare for the triple option. Like there should be no flop. Okay, you go into game 2, FCS school, right? Like again, that you should be able to handle business. Okay, now you got NC State on the road, a solid Power 5 team. They play well at home. They have a solid defense, right? And so like there's hype to play in that game. This to me is like the first true kind of trapdoor game of the season. Coming back home, you're 3-0. It's Central Michigan. You're favored by more than 30 points. Can you do it again? Can you take care of business at home and not look like a Cal last year or a Marshall last year or a Stanford last year? I think this is the true test of, has Marcus Freeman fully matured, and is this team going to come out and execute how they have the first 3 games of the year?
I completely agree. This is the classic trap game to me. You're coming off North Carolina State, which everyone viewed as the first real test of the season after so lopsidedly beating Navy and Tennessee State in back-to-back weeks. You had a fairly hard-fought win against North Carolina State, even though you kind of ended up winning going away in the end. But now you've got Ohio State coming up next week. And I mentioned Ohio State yesterday to Reggie Brooks, and even he doesn't want to talk about next week in Ohio State. And Marcus Freeman was putting on the hard sell on Monday, talking about what kind of team Central Michigan is and all that kind of stuff. So, like this.
They have a good coach.
Yeah, they do. This is where we're going to truly find out, I think, if that kind of stuff is a thing of the past. My gut tells me it is, just because of I really like what I've seen so far. Just again, like going back to Marcus Freeman's organization, and just really with very few exceptions. There have been a few exceptions, but you haven't seen a lot of confusion type stuff going on. More penalties, I think, last week than anyone would like to see. But overall, just the organization, the way things have run so far, it's looked really good so far. So again, my gut tells me it's a thing of the past, but we'll find out for sure this Saturday when we see exactly what that looks like.
I got to let out a disclaimer. El Conquistador, I know who you are. I'm on to you. I'm glad you're back. I missed you the last couple of weeks. I felt like I didn't see you very much.
He's wearing a mask. That's right. He's hiding his true self is what he's doing. All right, so here is Sam Hartman, did a little media last night. Sam Hartman asked about Heisman candidacy. Here's his response.
Up front, our guys are playing really well. And I think the tight ends obviously had a huge day. You got guys, making plays on the outside, and obviously Audric kind of opened that game up for us. And outside, the receivers made a lot of plays. Tobias had a big catch, right? CT had a huge catch, and that puts me into those conversations. But all that is all washed without, everybody around me. GP calling the plays, Gino being there on the sideline, Coach Freeman giving me the opportunity. But again, not that I've been in this situation before, right, at Wake and those different things, and yeah, you see it, you hear it, but again, there's no me in all those conversations without up front, on the outsides, right in the trenches, those guys going to war for me, and shoot, even the Scott team guys, even Alexa with nutrition, like all those things go into play for me, and all those different things are huge for us to make sure that I'm healthy and the team has success.
He did everything or said everything except got to support the team. Want to, good Lord willing, I just want to do what I can. Like everywhere, give him credit, because anytime he's been kind of asked about himself, he starts off talking about his teammates. But what do you think about his response to Heisman candidacy?
I think that his response to Heisman candidacy was very politician-esque. It was like
Yes.
walking around and kissing babies on the forehead, right?
Uh-huh.
He gave praise to the offensive line. He gave praise to the tight ends. He gave praise to Audric. He gave praise to the wide receivers before he even said anything.
The nutritionist. He gave praise to the nutritionist.
Right. And before he even mentioned anything about himself. I think there's serious talks about Sam Hartman and the Heisman, because, listen, it comes down, as much as people don't want to admit to it, it still comes down to team success at the end of the day. If Sam Hartman has a tremendous season and Notre Dame makes it to the playoff, potentially a national championship game, hell, if they win the whole thing, Sam Hartman, as much as they'll tell you it doesn't matter, it matters. And I just think Sam Hartman is a steal and a dark horse at Heisman right now. And I don't know if you saw it, but I sent you a tweet before the show.
I did.
Dave Portnoy put $10,000 on Sam Hartman to win the Heisman. I wish I had that kind of FU money to just throw $10K on Sam Hartman to win the Heisman.
That'll happen when you buy your dollar company back for $1 or whatever it was. I mean, you get to keep a lot of money in your pocket. You get to go around tasting pizza around the country, I think. But yeah, he bet 10 grand at plus 2,000 odds. And I agree with what he said, because
it's a steal.
It's a steal. It's like you might as well get some value out of it. And if you've got the money to throw at it, like I should have bet more this summer, but he was, less I don't want to say sure thing, but he, I got him at plus 3,000 odds. I didn't bet near, anywhere near $10,000. But if you've got a little cash to throw at it, especially right now, because after next week is where we're really going to find out.
Well, that's what he said.
The
value is going to drop when they beat Ohio State in 2 weeks. Right?
A week and a half. Yeah.
Right. And so it's going to get even cheaper. So he's at plus 2,100 on FanDuel right now. So he's already, you got him at plus 3,000. It's already gone down, almost 1,000 points at this rate. And El Conquistador asked who? Dave Portnoy.
The guy who owns
the Barstool
Sports. Yeah. Yeah. 10 grand. And I think I saved it here. So if he screenshotted the bet slip. Yeah. So he bet $10,000 on Sam Hartman at plus 2,000 odds. He would win $210,000 if Sam Hartman wins the Heisman Trophy with that bet. So, hey, but like you said, he's got the FU money to do it. So I'd be in that boat as well.
How is, speaking of Heisman, how is Audric not talked about? He's the leading running back in the country right now.
Because of what you said, he's the running back, and Sam Hartman is the quarterback at Notre Dame. And Sam Hartman, if, again, things go the way Notre Dame wants them to go next week, Sam Hartman is going to become the national story. It's not going to become Audric Estime.
That's true.
It's going to become Sam Hartman.
That's true. We're going to see a lot of Sam Hartman specials after if they're able to get it done.
Yep, exactly. All right. Let me see. I've got a couple super chats in here still. Fill in the blank. It's blank that Marty Biaggi says he's seen Spencer Shrader kick a 70-yard field goal.
See, this question was hard because it's like, how do you go with this one? Like, it's impressive.
Here's what I want to know. Like, how many of these, especially like high-level guys and guys who are in the NFL, how many of them can just, get one of those, the little stick holder things and go out and kick a 70-yard field goal? Yeah. Like, how many of them could do that? Because it's one thing to, and Biaggi kind of talked about it a little bit in some of his other comments. It's one thing to put the little tripod stick thing up there and kick a long field goal. It's another thing to do it when everyone's lined up and you've got the pressure to do it. You've got game conditions and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So like it's all, it's impressive, but I want to see him hit the 40-yarders. I want to see him hit the 45-yarders. Give me the consistent money ones, because those are going to be the ones that propel you against, an Ohio State or a USC or a one-possession game. Like, you can't be missing field goals at the end of a hard, laborious drive against some of these bigger opponents. So I honestly don't care if you can hit it from 70. Show me you can make it from 35 to 45 with consistency.
That's true. I mean, so far they haven't had to rely on field goals. Had the couple tries last week that they ended up. But again, you're going to get into every point is going to be valuable when you're playing Ohio State and USC and maybe Duke even, and Clemson and those kind of schools. Every point's going to be valuable. You've got to have them.
Well, the thing is, too, it's like the last thing an offense wants to do is feel like they did their job. They were successful. They're coming off the field. And then your quarterback and then your kicker shanks it, because then it's like, well, that's so demoralizing. And it's it can honestly be a big momentum shift in a game when, again, you have such a 10, 15 play drive that only results in a field goal, and your kicker shanks it.
Here's a super chat from Tyler Evans. Thanks for the super chat, Tyler. This is one I've been kind of thinking on for a while since I saw it come in. Can you guys rank the Power 5 conferences this year?
Let's go one by one. I'll start with my one, and then you go to your one.
Okay.
I can't believe this is coming out of my mouth, but right now where we sit today, the Big 12 is number one for me.
The Big 12 is. Now,
Yep.
Is that all because of the win over Alabama last week? Is that why you're putting, the Texas win over Alabama? Is that why you're putting them so high?
I couple that with Colorado's success. I couple that.
Colorado's in the Pac-12 still.
Oh, crap. You're right. Man, not
And
a hot start for me.
The Pac-12 would be my number one right now from top to bottom as a conference, because they have, and I was sitting here, they've got 8 teams in the top 25 this week, and I need to pull up the stand. They went through that entire first weekend without a loss, and they have been, now they got a few losses last week. The bottom of the conference, both Arizona schools, Cal and Stanford. Shocker. Those are the teams that have lost games so far for the Pac-12. But you've got 8 teams in the Pac-12 who are in the top 25 this week. So as of right now, the Pac-12 is at the top of my list.
I'm revising my answer. You got USC, Oregon, UCLA, Washington, yes, Utah, Colorado. That is what I obviously meant to say. I need the people to give me a mulligan.
Okay. So Pac-12 is my number one. Pac-12 is your number one. I think I'd put the Big Ten number 2 right now. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean,
you've got.
I hate the Big Ten West.
I do too. But you've got. It's very top heavy. You've got Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State all in the top 10 right now.
And Iowa will be pretty solid this year. So it's like,
I'm not going to be surprised if Penn State ends up at least beats at least one of those other 2 teams that are ahead of them right now. I'm not going all in on Penn State just yet, but I'm liking what I've seen so far in comparison. So do you put Big Ten number 2?
No, I put the Big Ten at 3. I still think the SEC holds at 2.
Okay. I'm trying to just because, again, like you talk about top heavy. How good is Tennessee? I still think that's a question. Milrow's been a little bit better than I thought, but I put the Big Ten slightly ahead of the SEC. SEC would be my number 3. Now, look, if you lined up and you played SEC against Pac-12, the best teams in the SEC, I think, are going to beat the best teams in the Pac-12. But just based on results right now, I'm going to put the Pac-12 higher because of the depth that they got. And it's still, obviously ironic.
Listen, middle tier SEC teams would stomp the middle tier of the Big Ten. Once you got past Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State.
That's fair. I'll readjust. I'll go SEC.
Sorry, that wasn't me reacting to you. That was El Conquistador calling me an SEC honk in the chat. So
right now I go Pac-12, SEC, Big 10, Big 12, ACC.
Yeah,
that's how I'd go.
That's how I feel it too.
Yeah, I don't think we needed to spend much more time on that than we needed to. But still a good question there, Tyler. Jay, just Jay. Thanks for the super chat. We need to sit the starting defense whole second half. Can't get a targeting this week. I hope the offense plays at least 3 quarters. Need to air it out. What do you think?
I'm on the boat. So I'll first start with offense. I think the offense needs to play 3 quarters no matter what. Would I like them out at halftime? Sure. But again, I like the idea of being fresh and tuned up for Ohio State. And so, yeah, I want to see the offense in there no matter what for the first 3 quarters. Defensively, I don't really see this as a thing because they use so many players as is. And you know, they use their second string guys. They use some of those third string guys. So, again, I think if you're going to start getting into, you know, seeing more third and, you know, potentially fourth string guys, I think you need to wait until the end of the third quarter for both sides of the ball. But defensively, they already use a lot of guys as is. So it's hard to say really on the defensive side of the ball.
Yep. All right.
Uh-oh, we got a big old one.
Yeah, Matt bringing a super chat. Thank you very much, Matt. Is anyone else concerned about kickoff coverage? I feel like the punt blocks masked a rather disappointing coverage last year, and I've seen some of the same this year. Thoughts? Now remember, kick coverage and punt coverage are 2 completely different things. So if we're talking punt coverage, I mean, it's been okay. Kick coverage, we saw 1 long return a couple of weeks ago, and it's like it's been hinged like on are they going to spring one here? I'm definitely thinking more about it this year than last year.
I would say I'm not really concerned. But I in terms of returning the ball, I'd like to see a little bit more. You know, Chris Tyree really hasn't done anything in terms of punt, and I know that's hard sometimes just because of hang time and, you know, where you are catching the ball in terms of the field and you know the guys running down at you. But in terms of coverage, I haven't really seen anything that's overly concerned me, and I don't want to go out and make a bold statement because again, it's so hard to focus on everything as the game is live happening at you. And unless you're specifically going back and looking at something like, you know, kickoff coverage and punt coverage, it's really hard for me to make, you know, a defiant and bold statement. But I don't think I've seen anything that stuck out like, man, I feel like that's going to come back to haunt them down the road. Or, man, I think Ohio State is going to bust some sort of, you know, big kickoff return against Notre Dame. I haven't seen any of that. And another reason why I'm not overly concerned is because Notre Dame plays their guys on special teams. It's not a portion of the game where you see, you know, second or third stringers in there. There's guys, you know, first string guys and rotational guys, like defensively guys who get into nickel coverages who are out there playing on special teams. And so I think when you have your guys out there, it really sends a message. And I haven't seen anything that's overly concerning yet.
Okay. I can live with that. Final question from Robert. Just for fun, in a big screen adaptation of the Irish Breakdown story, which actors, past or present, could best portray the IB staff? Wishing Coach D's mom the best, and many thanks for everything. Okay, Robert. So I've been thinking about this, and I just jotted some down.
Boy. I'll let you take this one. I'm not good at all the actors.
Now, this is just off the top of my head. If I had a little bit more time to think about this, I might go in some different directions. Brian Driscoll is going to be James Gandolfini, like the mob boss. He's the mob boss from and now I can't
Sopranos.
Sopranos. Thank you, man. I drew a blank there, real quick. So Driscoll is James Gandolfini. Vince, I thought long and hard about Vince. There's some different directions I could go with this, but since Vince loves Rudy, Vince loves Rudy so much, I'm going to go with Jon Favreau from Rudy. D-Bob. He's D-Bob. John Favreau. Ryan is Jeremy Renner. Like Ryan has got that East Coast attitude, and like Jeremy Renner, you remember him in The Town. He was, kind of the tough guy, Ben Affleck's friend in The Town. So I'm going with Jeremy Renner for Ryan. Jesse, I'm giving you Matt Damon because
Nice.
I feel like you've got that, that Matt Damon, kind of go along, get along vibe and that kind of thing. And,
So you're telling me in the scene of, what's that movie where he goes up and he's like, how do you like them apples?
I was just about to say that. Good Will Hunting. You like apples? I got a number. How do you like them apples? It's one of my favorite scenes of all time in the movie. So that is Jesse. And then I get Tom Cruise just because, Tom has aged better than me, but I get Tom Cruise because we're about the same size, and Tom Cruise always running. He still, is getting it done in the action flicks. And I mean, Top Gun Maverick. So I get Tom Cruise. Now he's a little out there. Maybe you could say I'm a little out there in some instances as well, but I get Tom Cruise. So that's my casting. Well, and Sean Christopher Walken. I don't know about that. Like talking a staccato kind of sound. Gandolfini is dead. They did say actor past or present. Vince Vaughn is one that I thought about, but Vince Vaughn is too cool to play Vince D'Addario. So that's why I went with John Favreau. So
no one bring that up to Vince.
That's right. That's exactly right. So that is
Nessman. Isn't he the WKRP guy?
He is the W. Oh man, come on. Not salty, but El Conk. Come on, you're killing me with this. At least give me Herb Tarlick. I mean, wear the plaid suits and jackets and all that kind of stuff. Yes, that's right. Brian is Tony Soprano. John, you got it exactly right. Sean just got banned. All right, so that's going to do it for tonight. Good questions. I like that little IB cast.
That's a good one to end it on.
There. Yep, I think so as well. We will be back tomorrow, and of course, we've got IB Countdown to Kickoff coming up for you this weekend as well. So we will talk to you then. Hit the like button on your way out, and of course, the friendly reminders to subscribe, rate, and review. And we will talk to you Thursday on IB Nation Sports Talk.